Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. Well, we've got tariff day coming right at us. And the question is, did today signal the bottom, Pete? That's what Pete and I will be discussing on the Rebel's Edge today, because we got right down to those March lows and saw a V-shaped bottom. Was that it, or could there be more? And what should you consider for your portfolio? All that and more on the Rebel's Edge.
It's official. Here we go. Another week, John. And now this week, how about we got a lot of news, man. It will cascade like we haven't seen in a very long time. And it's unbelievable. Maybe we already saw a little bit of that today.
Well, I think, yeah. Last week, Pete, I was angry at myself that I didn't say we should be short into Friday. Because we're going to have the weekend. The president's going to be on the Sunday talk shows, and Navarro's going to be on the Sunday talk shows. It was a great setup for it. But after that harsh sell-off this morning, Pete, I'm not saying we're all the way back or that we won't slip in the afternoon, but it was certainly noteworthy that we did bounce right around those March lows, Pete.
Funny how that works. As a matter of fact, John, like you said, we were down 400 on the Dow. We were down 400 on the NASDAQ. Now we've cut it in half as far as the NASDAQ, and we're actually positive territory for the Dow. So an amazing turnaround just today alone. But as you and I both know, a lot of things can happen between now and April 2nd, April 3rd. I think it'll be still stay a little bit more interesting than a lot of people might want it to be.
Well, maybe our macro minute will lead into that, Pete, because I'm going to say if we broke 5,500 this morning, it could have been bad, especially if we don't come right back up through it. But that would have created support, according to our Jeff Garbaz of the Rebel Squeeze play, at right around 5,400. Well, we didn't get to see that, Pete. So whatever, tariff liberation day is upon us. And it seems that the market has already priced in most of that.
Most of it, but I think one area that just seems to get a little bit more acceleration every single day, John, has been gold. And it's absolutely incredible. You look at the year-to-date performance that we've already had, it's up 21%, hit 3160 today for the high. Now, it pulled off of that, but nonetheless, we're up 10% in the month of March. This is the last day of March. And all this thing does is go up, 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 up with very few pullbacks at all. So it started off, got over 3,000. Now here we are, well over 3,100. It's pretty interesting just to watch what gold is doing and some of the others in terms of what's going on relative to the tariff talk that everybody's so fearful of.
Yeah, and Friday, Pete, HMY, Harmony, this is a gold miner, of course. They're up another 3% today, Pete. You take a look at some of these gold miners like GOLD, as well as Harmony, and we could name 10 of them, but they were all seeing pretty decent lifts, Pete, because there's more than one way to play gold, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, as far as futures, I'm going to say getting down to the level we got down to for the 10-year, 4.19%. Pete, that's down from 4.8% just a month ago. I mean, so we're headed lower in a hurry. Now, it hasn't translated to significantly lower mortgage rates, which is what the president and most of us want to see. But I think we're moving in the right direction, Pete.
Yeah, no doubt about that. By the way, the entire month of March, and here we are today, but the entire month of March until today, crude oil's been under 70. So I think it's pretty interesting. Today we had that little bit of a movement. We were down in the 66, 67 level, on the lows, and now here we are. Today we hit 71. Pulled back a little bit, but nonetheless, sitting right around that 71. As a matter of fact, John, actually 71.50. So a nice move to the upside on a crude. I'm not saying necessarily that's a good thing for all of us because there's a lot of things going on. But I would say this. Then you look over at the volatility index and you want to see a spike. We got that spike last week. We had a little bit of a mini spike this morning, kind of eased off of that. But here we sit, 2270 right now for the VIX. So we are holding above that 20 level. And it wasn't too many days ago, John, where we're sitting at 17. So keep an eye on what's going on with volatility, because these markets, and proof in the pudding of what we see today, I mean, we're all over the place. It's not just down, it's up, and it's moving all over the place. So keep an eye on that volatility index.
Well, we hit 2480, almost 25, like you said today, Pete.
Yep.
And that was literally on the opening. And one thing I will stress is that last time we got down to that March 10th low, we were at 29, almost 30. So we're still 24% or whatever beneath that. And now, like you said, Pete, heading down below 23, maybe breaking 22 in just a few minutes. So we'll keep a sharp eye on that.
Sure.
All right. Let's talk vax companies, Pete, because I think the vaccination plays are feeling sick today. And that would be Moderna, mRNA. That would be Novavax, NVAX. And even one, Pete, PCVX. They had a great phase 3 trial, but the fact that this Peter Marks resigned on Friday after the bell, I believe, he's the guy that used to basically be the vax approver. Well, he's the top vaccination official, and he gone. And Kennedy said, thanks for quitting. We don't have to fire you, so we don't have to pay you severance.
Ta-ta is what he's saying to him right now. We'll see you later on. Although he says it in a little bit of a different tone. But nonetheless, John, you're exactly right. I mean, you look at what's happening with these vax stocks. Holy crap. I mean, take a look at Moderna just for a moment. This thing, John, was trading 163 last May. You know where it is today? Last I looked, it was 28 bucks. So you want to talk about a company that's gotten absolutely hammered. And we understand, you know, vaccines are a big portion of it, but they've got plenty of cash. This is one of those where this might be a time to really start considering to look at some of these names, in my opinion. They've gotten sold off in such an unbelievable way that I think there might be some opportunities out there. Matter of fact, Novavax is the same thing, John. It was 21, and now here it is trading $6, $6.50, somewhere in there. I think there's some great opportunities out there. Look at the balance sheets. Take a look at that. There's not a lot of shorts. Take a look at that. I think there's reason to get very excited about some of these names. And it's not because of COVID and that potential. It's just about where they are, what they do. I think that there's a lot of reasons why I think I'd start keeping a very close eye on some of these names.
Well, good advice. Let's take a look, Pete, at Cort, C-O-R-T. These guys had a phase 3 trial, and you guys know from listening to us and listening to Pete open up some knowledge to you guys about how much it costs to get through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This is known as the burn rate to get a drug to market. Well, they have one for ovarian cancer, Pete, and look at the chart of this one, just exploding to the upside, Pete. Obviously, a lot of hope, but it's more than just hope at this point, because the phase 3 trial, pretty damn positive.
Yeah, and you look at this company, John, the amazing part about it is they are already profitable, which, you know, oftentimes that's not really the case. But these guys are already profitable. They've got an incredible, almost I'd call it damn near a perfect looking balance sheet on what they've got. Yeah, they do have some huge short interest in this one. Why do you think this thing's up 100%, give or take, today? 94% was the last I saw. It's up 280% in the last year. I would say these guys are doing a lot of things the right way. They've got a few that have already been approved. They have a very deep pipeline, John, and what they've been able to produce already, I think this is one of those names that, wow, again, something you and I talk about all the time. When you look at a company like this, does somebody want to start knocking on that door and saying, hey, what would it take to take you guys out and put you into with what we've got? They are a magical company that's doing unbelievable work in oncology and other areas, John. I'm really, really impressed with everything about what these guys have accomplished already. The fact that they've got a couple of these drugs already making money for them out there. This one's going to be a big one for them. And I think that they've got plenty more in the pipeline to come out. So this is one, either you start looking at this one or somebody's going to probably buy them at some point in time. I just don't know how they're going to stay independent. Why, if I'm Merck, if I'm any of these guys, Bristol Myers or whoever, this is a company I'm staring at right now.
Well, normal activity is 1 million shares. It's changed hands 9 million shares partway through the day today, Pete. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. I think closed right around 54 bucks on Friday, traded to as high as 104, like Pete said, so far today. Just an incredible move. All right. And then this one, Pete, Rocket. These guys have been in the news a fair amount lately, and Rocket RKT, that's Mr. Dan Gilbert. That's his company. He is buying Mr. Cooper, COOP, and that stock is moving up strong today. It's a $9.5 billion deal. You might recall Pete has been pounding the table for there are going to be a lot of deals this year. Well, this is just one more example.
It's only 9.4 billion, John. I mean, that's all it is. and these things keep on happening. And yet I hear guys on television all the time going, well, you know, they're really slowing down on some of this. I don't see that at all. I see some massive takeouts that are already occurring this year. This is another one of those. As a matter of fact, immediately, instantaneously accretive. So you've got to like that. I think Dan Gilbert has done a phenomenal job, except for one thing. His own company, the stock itself, John, just kind of keeps getting hit and hit and hit. And I can't really fully explain it. I know that they've got an incredible, you know, what they've got in that area with mortgages is something close to 11% of the entire country just from Rocket. So pretty impressive numbers when you look at that. But the cash burn that they've got is pretty ugly. The cash burn for Rocket is almost $4 billion. So that would be something where I'd look at it and go, well, that's a little concerning. I got to, you know, check this thing out. The stock is down. Usually you're going to be down after a big buy like this, but it is. And it's trading right around 12 bucks or something like that. It's interesting. There's a hell of a lot of shorts in Rocket, John, about 20%. So that's a sizable thing. At some point, if they can get this thing turned, and like you said earlier, if that 30-year mortgage starts to adjust a little bit, there could be a lot of activity for Rocket, especially with the presence that they've already got, especially with this acquisition.
And that's so important because if you have a 4% mortgage or even lower than that mortgage, you are struggling to justify. Yeah, Pete holds up 2 fingers, like 2%. You're struggling to say, I can't move. I can't move my mortgage with me. So how can I move? Because if I bought the same quality house, I'd be paying twice as much on a monthly basis for my mortgage. That dog don't hunt. So getting down is something that the president wants to see. I think something all of us would like to see. And that'll free up an awful lot of cash in a lot of places, Pete, because I think people would be moving around more if they could, but those mortgages aren't portable.
No.
All right, let's talk about CoreWeave. These guys, they used to be a Bitcoin miner. And then they figured out, you know what? We got all these data centers basically where we just mine Bitcoin and so forth. What if we started using these for other things? And what if, since everybody's talking about data centers, what if we owned a whole bunch of NVIDIA chips? Well, that's good and bad. The bad news here for CoreWeave is those chips have come down from $45,000, $50,000 to maybe 25, Pete. And if you're leasing those chips from these guys, you might be leasing them a hell of a lot cheaper than they are financing them. So this IPO is just being crapped all over the place.
Yeah.
It came out at a much lower price than they expected, and it's still under pressure again today.
Yeah, it's a whole ball of crap right now, John. It really is. I mean, you want to talk about crap in the bed. This IPO, you know what it kind of reminds me of a little bit because of the excitement that was going into the IPO for this one. The excitement.
I know what you're going to say.
Facebook,
Yep.
you know, which we now call Meta. But let's be honest, when it came out as Facebook, I'll never forget, Morgan Stanley had to support the hell out of this thing just to hold it anywhere close to what the IPO was, right? I think it was like 36, 38 bucks, whatever it was. And they had to hold it up there, John. I mean, that whole first day, it was getting ugly because it got into the low 40s and immediately they started slamming this son of a gun down. Eventually, the turn and burn was really impressive too, though. Let's remember that. So let's not forget about that. But this thing is really not looking very good early on. And it's been as low as 36 bucks. it came out, wherever it was, John, but it's somewhere between $36 and $42. It ain't looking too
39.
good. Yep. So
39.
there's a lot of pressure on this thing right now. And I'll tell you, it makes me wonder about NVIDIA. Certainly has a lot of reasons to want to like this thing and obviously invest in this thing, and a lot of interesting things going there. It's one of those things where I wonder if he's going to actually come out and go, the hell with this. This thing didn't work. We're taking it out. That's just crazy speculation. But nonetheless, I think it's something kind of interesting, John, because we haven't seen an IPO, basically crap the bed like this thing in a pretty long period of time, especially with the size that they came out with, dollar-wise. The valuation is huge, and that valuation's going like this right now.
Well, 17.5 billion, I think, is the valuation today, Pete. And they expected it to come out on the IPO a heck of a lot higher than that. Yeah. All right. Let's take a look, Pete, at an interesting little event that happened with the Yankees, because they took their bats, Pete, and they actually applied some MIT science to it, apparently. They said, the handle, let's keep it real thin. Let's put all the weight up here in the barrel. And it looks a bit like, I think they're calling them torpedo bats right now, Pete. Yep. But what they did was they torpedoed Nestor Cortez, who used to be their pitcher for the Milwaukee Braves. Let's watch at least the first 3 pitches of this, Pete, because this is baseball history.
That's gone.
He gone.
I'll tell you what, when Aaron Judge gets his eye on the ball and he's got that bat, this could be ugly for a lot of pitchers, not just this poor son of a gun.
Well, so that's the leadoff.
By the way, that pitcher might need to push away from that candy corn or whatever he's eating, John. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, then let's take a look at the next guy that comes up, Pete, because the next guy that comes up, when your leadoff gives you a home run like that, the fans are, of course, going to be pretty pleased, and the dugout. But let's see what happens when the next guy steps into that box. Does Nestor brush him back, or does he throw one right down the pipe? Let's see.
He's a former Yankee. He's not going to brush him. He's going to throw it right down the middle and watch another one go over his head. The poor bastard.
Well, what did he say, Pete, in Bull Durham? Last time I saw one fly that far, it had a stewardess on it.
Look at the smile, the smirk on his face.
And there's Aaron Judge coming up. So
that's
number 99, the biggest home run hitter in the American League coming up now. And you've thrown 2 pitches, 2 home runs. This is baseball history right here, Pete. Take a look.
Yeah.
And on a perfect day, too. Okay, here comes the pitch.
He's only like 6'8" or whatever he is. He just that thing
there
was
goes upper decker.
God, that thing got out of there faster than a Tesla. I'll tell you that right now. See that poor
son. They already pulled the other pitcher, Pete. That's not Nestor anymore.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, former Yankee and the whole thing. I mean, it's just they are good. They pay a lot of money for their players, and it actually works. It doesn't always work. Look at the Mets. A lot of the time, they pay a lot. Stevie Cohen does a great job trying to get the best guys he can, pays for the rest. Mm-hmm. But the Yankees have been doing it for so long, it's just amazing.
Yeah. There. Goodbye, Nestor.
That's another highlight.
There it is, right on that fat part of the bat, Pete, the torpedo.
Unreal. All right, John. Let's jump to some sports, man. Let's talk a little bit about, I know we've been talking a lot of the NFL because we should be, because the NFL is damned interesting right now. It's also bracket time, and now we're going to talk about that as well. But before we get there, I had a real quickie for you. Your guy, Deion Sanders, I don't know if you saw this, but he just signed a contract that puts him in the top 10 highest paid coaches in all of college football. He signed a 5-year, $54 million deal, John. I mean, not so bad, right? The base is now $10 million per year. It finishes up at $12 million as you get further out and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. But the money, and here's what I would say. Is the investment smart? Hell yes, it's smart. And I'll tell you why, John. So they had the most watched this past year, 54 million viewers in 2024 tuning in to watch his team play. Okay. That's pretty impressive. And then you go to the Alamo Bowl, and it's a record. They had 8 million people watching during the Alamo Bowl this year because they got Shador. They've got all these other great players. Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, so not so bad would be the way I would phrase that one. He's got all these other ex-pro athletes that are out there coaching too, John. So, if you're a kid out there and you're kind of on the fence and you're looking between going to Colorado or going to wherever, I think you start leaning towards Colorado, right? I mean, he has turned a corner to some degree. They are not winning every game. We all know that, but it's just amazing, John. How about this? Applications have increased at the school level 20% year over year. They've increased 18% from the out-of-state guys that are applying for it. They have generated $93.9 million for Boulder as a city. I would say that the $10 million they gave them, hell, it might not be enough.
Might not be, Pete. I mean, of that number that Pete just said, the 90 some odd, 72 million was direct spending in Boulder. So that's lodging, transportation, food, retail, recreation. If you're a student athlete that wants to be noticed, be on TV, this is one of those places you would want to go. Is Michigan better? Yes. Is Alabama better? Yes. But you're getting close to rivaling those schools in terms of exposure, Pete. And exposure is what gets you, the first round picks. Yeah. So in 2024, Pete, the Colorado said they had record revenue because of him, $146 million. Football ticket sales, 31.2 million, more than double the previous record. You go there now, you can't get a ticket. Right. Even the students have a hard time getting tickets, Pete. And they police it pretty closely. So they might need to expand that damn stadium. But this is a good deal for Dion. It's a great deal for Boulder.
Yeah, you got to love it. It's unbelievable. By the way, just on a side note, did you see what Stanford did? I mean, it's unbelievable, John. Andrew Luck came out there. He just got hired less than a month ago, something close to that anyway. So about a month ago, he comes in as the general manager. This is a new position for Stanford. A lot of schools are starting to add this in. Many of them already have. LSU's done it for years. Alabama's done it for years. Georgia's done it for years. You see a little bit of a trend here. Texas has done it for years. So the PAC decided they would do it, although they're no longer the PAC. They're the ACC. But Luck comes in there and he looks at the coach and he goes, hey, man, there's a lot of complaints about you being a pretty big jackass. And he goes, you're out. And I mean, like, that's not what he was hired for. But you know what, John? I can't blame him for doing it. I mean, it's his school. He came there. He wanted to do whatever he can do as a general manager. Well, he was supposed to do all these other things. And he looked at the coach and said, look, we can't recruit because we don't have the right coach. Now, the other issue is the guys who like the coach, they've lost 20 guys so far to the portal from Stanford. So a lot of, this and that. But I personally think that Andrew Luck actually did the right thing. What about you? A real quickie on this one.
Yeah, I'd say it's the right thing. I mean, he talked to the players. He didn't just come in all emotional, Pete. Right. Talked to the players. A lot of those players did not like this coach. Yeah. Granted, the guys that go into the portal, it's not always because they don't like the coach.
Right.
Quite frequently, it's because they get a better opportunity somewhere else, or they think they can get a better opportunity somewhere else. And so they go. So you're always, as long as this is the way it is right now, Pete, you're going to see movement no matter how well liked the coach is. Even Dion sees players leaving his space as well.
Oh, yeah. Guys want to play and guys want to get money. And if they're not getting the money from their school, they're going to somewhere else, which ties into the next thing. NCAA tournament, okay? I don't know if I've ever seen this happen before, John. I can't remember it anyways, but it probably has happened sometime. But all 4 number 1 seeds are in the Final Four. I mean, I can't remember seeing that. Now, Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I didn't go out and fully research the whole thing. I just found it really interesting. I know we haven't seen that for a while because there's always that sneaky number 2 or that sneaky number 8 or whatever that somehow gets in there. But I think this is a testament to one thing, John, NIL. Now, think about this for a second. We had 12 teams from the SEC make it in there, right? They got into the tournament this year. They got 2 into the Final Four, right? I mean, so that's kind of interesting. You got Florida, you got Auburn, then you get the ACC, you get Duke, and then you get the Big 12, and you got Houston. Houston is a scary team that can really, really play. But Duke's got the best player I've seen in a really long time in Flag, John. I think he's really special. But I just wanted to say, take a look at where the NIL money really sits, okay? And just to give you a little idea, I looked up at the top 10 NIL schools, right? Well, Tennessee, they've got 30 million. Texas got somewhere in the upper 20s. Ole Miss has got theirs. Florida's got theirs. Missouri's got theirs. NIL money alone for the entire SEC, $186 million, John. So if you don't think you can buy a championship, then you ain't paying attention to what's going on out there. I'm just saying it one last time, at least for a little while. They need to put a cap on this damn thing. There's got to be a level where somebody has the ability to say, look, the number's 25 million. That's the max. Now, if you can't raise it, you can't raise it. But that is the max. And until they do that, John, we're going to see this go more and more into that. Who's got the money? They're going to win. Take a look at the football championship. Take a look at what's going on with basketball, the championship there. Those are your big money drivers. Yeah, there's other things. There's hockey and whatever else. But the reality is you can buy championships now if you've got enough folks that want to give you the money to do it.
And apparently a lot of those schools that, like you said last week, Pete, have been accused of cheating for years. They had the infrastructure for raising those funds.
Texas A&M, Oklahoma, baby.
Alabama.
There's always been money out there, man.
Thank you for joining us today, folks. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure that you tune in again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And Pete and I will be back with more on The Rebel's Edge tomorrow at 1.